Have you ever started making a track, put your kick drum in the DAW, gone to the mixer channel, and then wondered, what volume should I actually set this kick drum at? And what volume should I set the rest of my instruments at? Well, in this video, we're going to cover that. We're going to look at mixing loud and how you mix loud versus mixing quiet and how you mix quiet. And then we're going to compare the two and see the benefits of mixing loud, the benefits of mixing quiet, and then the drawbacks of both of them as well. Firstly, we're going to look at a track that I mixed down really loudly. And for this, we're going to look at the drop because the drop should be the loudest part of your track. This track is the Scantia remake I did. If you want to see the full tutorial on that, I'll leave that down below. And let's start with the kick drum. So we've got the kick drum here. If we were to press play, you can see we've got it coming straight in at 0 dB here. Now there's a couple of things you need to be aware of when setting stuff really loud. The first thing to watch out for is redlining. So if we take all the plugins off and I turn the volume up and then press play, you can see now that's going a little bit red on the mixer. And this is what redlining is. So this is when the sound goes above 0 dB and there's nothing stopping it from going over that level. So essentially what we have to do is, first of all, we have to gain stage, and you gain stage with this little knob here before it comes into the mixer channel. And then we just ensure that it's not going over 0 dB. And then we can add post-processing. And what I normally do when I'm mixing loud is I'll just add a limiter to the last slot on the mixer. So I've got a fruity limiter here that will just stop anything from going over 0 dB. So when I add these plugins in, it might then go back over 0 dB, and this limiter just stops that from happening. And that cuts out any redlining issues. And then the next thing to look out for is distortion. So let's say we add all these plugins, and instead of on this, we put it on max setting. So let me get headphones for this. And then we press play. And then sometimes it can sound too distorted and not really sound like a kick drum anymore. And if that happens, we just need to be careful with raising volume anymore, either through plugins or through these limiters. So you've just got to back everything off slightly. If you listen to it and it sounds like it's getting too much, it's distorting, it doesn't sound right anymore. And this is something you just got to train your ears to be able to do. So now that we've done that, let's just add in all the other elements, and you can see what kind of levels I play with for the rest of the sounds. So let's add in the clap, and you can see it here. You can see it's coming slightly quieter than the kick drum there. And then the hi-hats, you can see they're coming slightly quieter than the clap, and then any extras we'll just have to determine based on these elements. But the kick drum should always be your loudest element. And then all these go to a drum bus, and if we have nothing on the drum bus, you can see it might start redlining again. So we put another limiter on the drum bus, and here I'm using a Pro L, but again you can use the fruity one, and then I can just control the sound even more here and make it even louder if I want to, without it redlining. So I could go like here. But then if you go too loud, you might start getting that weird distortion again. So you've just got to be careful. So now these drums are coming in full volume on the master channel. And then again on the master channel, it's definitely redlining here. So we've put another Pro L on it right here, as you can see. And we've also got a sausage fatter. We'll go over the master more at the end. So then we've got basses. This is where you can get a little bit more creative because it's sound design. Firstly, what we want to do is make sure the input of the bass on here, when it comes in, is not redlining for gain staging purposes. If you find gain staging a little bit confusing, I have got a tutorial on that. I'll leave that down below as well. And then when all these elements get added in, it can get slightly louder. And then right at the end, we then pump the sound up with the Pro L to get it super loud. And essentially what we're doing here is we want every bass sound to be going over the gain reduction here. And how much you want to do it by is up to you. I normally go for like between -3 and -5. You see there, the peak is -4.2. So I'm happy with that. And then I'll do that for every single bass. And this just helps make all the bass levels the same volume, without having to rely so much on your ears. And then what we can do later on is reduce the overall sound of the bass bus compared to the drum bus. So let me show you how I've done the other sounds. So you see here, -5.3, that's about right. And then we've got our sub bass here, -3.7. And you see all these sounds are coming in super loud, and then they all get sent to the bass bus here. And if we just play it normally, You can see it's redlining like mad. So again, we put this Pro L on here, and then we can just turn it down on here so it's slightly quieter than the drums. And then we have this really ideal mix down because we want the drums just to be slightly louder than the basses in this kind of heavy music. And then we've really pushed every sound to the max. Let's look at this on the master now. So you can see it's coming in crazy loud. So we have to put either a sausage fattener on, which kind of acts like a limiter, or a limiter on like this. And then I look for a range that sounds good. Normally -5-ish sounds good again, but you can experiment. Or we could have them both on. And just get crazy sounds. And then we can really push this. And the reason we want to push this is because it can get so loud that when you like release the song, you've just got this incredibly loud track that basically sounds better because it's louder than every other track out there. There is a lot of criticism over this, and there has been like a loudness war going on and on over the last few years. And it really is up to you, your style of producing, whether you decide to go loud or just stick with the original quiet method of mixing. Then the last thing I like to do is use this free plugin called Ulean Loudness Meter to determine this LUFS integrated value here. So if we press play on the drop with all the maxed out settings, you can see I'm going to -4.6 LUFS, and I can potentially even push it even more by like increasing this. But then really the more you push it, the less overall quality of sound you get. When you're mixing loud, you can literally aim for this kind of value, if that's what you want. And when you mix quiet, it's a lot harder to get to this kind of LUF level. And I'll show you that in the next section. And also let me know in the comments what kind of LUF value you like to get to. Is this taking the mic, or is this not even loud enough? Do you want to get even louder? Now I just want to pause the video a second to let you know about my Music Production Academy. If you're really struggling with your music production and you want to take it to the next level, it's got everything you need. Over 15 hours of courses, one-to-one help from me, one-to-one feedback from me on your tracks, and help releasing your music. It's the second link down below. More info on that page if you want to join. Looking forward to seeing you inside. So now let's look at the more classical way of mixing, and this is mixing quiet. So we're going to look at a different track for this, and this is the track I made when I did that full Jump Up DnB guide. I'll leave a link to that if you want to watch that as well down below. And let's look at the drop. So let's look at the drums again now. So firstly, we're going to look at the kick drum, and we're going to get the mixer open again and have a look. You'll see that I'm working with the same project template here. This is available in the add-on section of my website, first link down below, if you're a bit confused as to how I've got this incredible project template working here. And let's play the kick drum first. So you can see in this track, I've got the kick drum set at -15 dB. So we're mixing quiet here. Now let's have a look at how the rest of the elements work, because we still want the kick drum to be the loudest element in this track. So let's introduce all the elements in with the mixer channel next to it here, so you can see. So let's introduce our snare. You can see it's still coming in quieter than the kick drum. And then let's add some hi-hats. You can see the hi-hats are coming in quieter than the snare. And then more elements, still coming in quieter than the snare. And then we've got an extra element here, which I mentioned earlier, so you can see the kind of level that comes in at. Just a little bit quieter. Almost the same volume as the snare there. So again, I've used gain staging along these here to get the volumes into here at the right level. And then I've made slight adjustments actually on the mixer channel once the gain staging has been done. And then everything is super quiet. So you might be wondering then, how do we actually push this sound to be louder? And you can actually do this in two ways. So the first way I like to do is on the drum bus. Now what you do, let's look at the drum bus when the drums are playing. You can still see they're coming in really quiet, between -12 and -15 dB. And then if we turn the effects on, we can now control the volume with this Pro L. We don't want to control it with the volume here because that can cause problems. We want to control it with a limiter like this. So you can use Pro L or you can use the fruity one. And you can see we've just increased the volume a little bit more. And you can really use this to get it louder. Or you can use the master channel later on. This is more just for mix down purposes when you're mixing like the basses in. So now I've said the basses, let's have a look at the basses. For the basses, you're going to be a bit surprised here, but I've actually mixed them all really loud again, because when you're using multiple basses, I just find it easier to use that exact method I used before, make everything loud, use the limiter to make it loud, and then just bring the overall volume down on the bass bus, as you can see there. And let me just show you the Seek Pro L here. You can see we've got minus 2.8 there. This one here we've got minus 6.5. And then the sub bass we've got coming a little bit quieter. I had to use my ears for this as well. Let's have a look at the bass channel. We need that Pro L on here because when it's at this level, red line into max, we just whack that on and then we just turn this down. We can then control this to be slightly quieter than the drums, and it sounds great. So then if I turn the master off now, you'll see that the overall volume is coming at minus 6 to minus 9, which is perfect for mixing quiet because now we can master it. So this is the big difference here. So you're already starting to notice one of the big differences here. We've essentially dynamically mixed this track. So we've put all the levels precisely in the places really quietly and got this really like dynamic full mix. And now we have all the space to go really detailed into the master and make it sound even better by adjusting tiny bits. And that's essentially what I've done here on the master channel. So I've done like little EQs here, a little EQ here, adjusting some of the sounds I liked and didn't like. And then I've done some stereo to mono enhancing. And then I've done some Maximus to boost some of the levels. So you can see I've gone through and adjusted little bits on here. And then finally we've got our Pro L to bring up the levels to a loud enough volume for this genre of music. And then the only drawback on this is it's hard to get it to go as loud as the last track. So if I'm turning this up now here, listen to how it changes. You can hear the kick drum has gone all distorted and weird, like I mentioned earlier, because I've turned it up too loud. It doesn't sound good anymore. So the max I could bring it up without that happening was about plus 3.4. You can see it sounds nice and crisp there, the kick drum. But this gives us that disadvantage here of this lower LUF value. Here we're getting about minus 8 LUFs here. Sometimes I can get it to minus 7 as well, which I think sounds pretty good, but I can never get it down to that level of minus 4 when you mix really loud. Now we've deep dived into mixing loud and mixing quiet. Let's have a look at the results. Mixing loud. It's basically ideal for punchier, high energy music because your track's going to end up being louder than everyone else's. Now, there's a lot of controversy over this, and it would be great to get a discussion in the comments. What do you think about this? Is this the right way, or should you just stick with mixing quieter and making your mix down sound as great as possible? Please let me know. It'd be great to hear what you think. And mixing quiet, you get more control and more balance in your mix, and overall the subtle details stand out more. Now, I admit I'm a bit of a sucker for using this method to mix. I mix most of my tracks really quiet, as you'll see from my tutorials in the past, but maybe this will change a little bit after this video, because I've come to this kind of conclusion here, and these are my thoughts right now. Mixing loud is ideal for these kind of heavy genres that have a lot of high energy in, such as like jump up drum and bass. Maybe in the future I'll start using this method more and see how it goes. And then typically mixing quiet would be ideal for softer tracks like liquid drum and bass as an example. But again, let me know what you think down below. That is the video complete. If you want my sample packs, that is the first link down below. There's loads to get your hands on. And if you want to join my Music Production Academy, which I mentioned earlier, that's the second link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.